my calculations are correct, when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious
It has begun!
Calm down, Doctor. Now is not the time for fear.
All you do is behave.
Give them nothing, but take from them everything!
Program complete. Enter when ready.
Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to another awesome episode of Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, the podcast where we talk the week's, or sorry, not the week's events, but more the month's events in Geek. This time around, taking care of June 2024. I am your host, Adam Mickelson, aka Drac. I hope everybody's having an awesome day or night when you're listening to this. And joining me is my usual panel of fellow geeks and awesome guys in general. First things first, let's start things off with Brenton Volley. Brenton, you have made it for 2 months in a row, and your voice hasn't left you. How do you feel about that?
I'm feeling pretty good,
All
considering I speak for a living.
You really do. Honestly, you really do.
I can't even begin to tell you, post-surgery, or should I say, before I got my tonsils out, there was always a general soreness to my throat, and ever since they've been removed, my throat and my capacity and longevity to speak throughout the day has improved so much.
That's good.
So I'm just noticing more and more the health benefits of having finally gotten my tonsils out.
Yes. See, I haven't had my tonsils out, but there was actually a point where I was about to, and there was a straight week there where the doctor and my mom were still kind of debating. That week was virtually unbearable because I could not keep the usual conversations that I did. And what made it worse is that I swear to God, my mom sent out a note to all my teachers that I was having issues. And that's the week where like everybody picked on me to give answers and whatnot. And that hurt even worse because you have to project in classrooms. So
My God.
I totally get it. Like I literally looked at it and went, you can't plan this shit. You really can't. But that's okay because we don't have to deal with the massive amount of echo that our buddy the Shadow Blazer has to deal with in the Shadow Realm while he is recovering from his own wounds. Alex, how are you? Have you finally been able to get all of those weird Shadow Realm kids off your lawn?
No, still can't get them off my lawn, no matter how much I shake my fist at them.
Well, you got
my cane.
I was going to say, you need to start shaking your cane because that'll do it. That'll absolutely
Maybe
do
I
it.
have to shake it harder.
Yes, shake it harder and maybe put a spike or two on it. That'll probably help.
Okay.
Everything's better with spikes. But welcome back, everybody. And this episode around, we are going to be covering June 2024, which is a fun time of year for us to be able to do this because this is E3 season. You'll notice that I didn't say E3, I said E3 season. Because despite whatever the gaming journalists want to say, there was no E3 event that happened. There were events that happened that were E3-like, hence why I'm calling it E3 season. If you don't like that, there's the door. Don't hit your ass on the way out. I'm here all week.
I think that's a really good way to communicate what used to be E3. I like that a lot.
It's what I've been using all year, and you're not the only one that has actually said that. My brother, as well as a couple of guildmates for us, have said, you know what? Yeah, that's exactly what this is. This is E3 season now. Because it's not, like, we don't have E3 as an event anymore. We just have, like, the Summer Games Fest, and Microsoft makes their announcements, Nintendo makes theirs, da-da-da-da-da. And so we might as well just call it E3 season. But
it just sounds better than saying oh, it's video game announcement month.
Yeah, it doesn't really roll off the tongue.
Not in the slightest.
I tried that stuff, and it didn't really work. But I think the best way to be able to start this off is, what have we been playing? What have we been watching while E3 season actually happened? And Alex the Shadow Blazer, I'm going to let you go ahead and start. Go.
Okay, so in terms of watching, I want to point out a couple of interesting things I came across on YouTube. One was a short animation made by this channel called Oda Animation. I guess over the course of many, many years, he worked on this less than 20 minute. It was like 19 and a half minutes called Alien Monday, which was kind of a really excellently well-made send-up to Alien. He basically animated it in a anime style that looks like a bit of something that would have come out of the
basically
80s
what a
or early
lot of
90s.
Alien fans have been begging for.
Yeah, something quite like that. It wasn't like using any of the actual Alien characters or setting, but it was like its own kind of little short original story with the alien itself, of course, the actual xenomorph, right? Just kind of like what you would see if like somebody did decide to make their own original alien in an anime style, and it was really excellent, very well done. So
you make it
very
sound like the
recommended.
xenomorph was the sole focus of the show. Is that not the case?
Not entirely, because it's basically a little bit like this, a ship engineer wakes up out of hypersleep. She goes down because she's trying to find one of her crewmates, discovers that he's dead. There's a whole bunch of eggs. So somehow a bunch of eggs, like maybe this crew member brought him aboard. We don't really know because it just kind of gets right to the action. It's a short animation.
That's just another thing
So
I've
somehow
seen a
there's
lot of people screaming about is they would really like to have a game or an anime or a movie that is done solely from the xenomorph's perspective, which I don't know if that'd work in a film format, but that'd actually be a really cool concept in games, because like if you've played the indie game Carrion, that's basically what that is.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
It's a
I've always
Metroidvania
preferred
where you literally play. You don't play as the xenomorph, but you play as like a hostile, infectious organism that you can like possess scientists or military and go around this facility and basically try to kill everybody. So yeah,
that does sound pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But no, not this animation. This animation, like I said, it's more of just a kind of a stand up to the movie Alien, just with its own original characters and spin on it. So yes, the crew member discovers one of her other crew members. I can't remember their ranks. I think she was the engineer. Discovers he's dead. He's been chest bursted. Has to escape a face hugger. Then immediately finds a fully grown xenomorph. Has to outsmart it, outwit it. Sends it off into space. Really excellent little animation. It's like 19 and a half minutes long. Totally recommend it. It was by, once again, that's Oda Animation. So totally check that out for anybody who loves Alien or would love to see what Alien would look like in again that 80s anime style. Very well done.
Yeah, that sounds similar to I think I've shown you this, Alex, but I don't think Brenton has seen it. But there's like the Star Wars animation that was basically an anime based off of X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. And so at that point, like it's primarily nothing but like cockpit shots and glorified like ship battles and stuff like that, but it's really well put together, and it's about that. And that's where I found it. I found it on YouTube from like an independent animation studio, which, funniest thing, the same studio that did that just barely put out a Transformers one that's like old school G1 of like a legitimate anime type fight between Starscream and Megatron, and it's actually pretty badass. So I'll grab that studio so that people can see that. But I can't remember. I think it's called like Starscream's Day of Reckoning or something like that. Because the whole premise is the reason they're fighting is G1 Megatron basically gets a jet form. He's like, well, F you, I don't need you anymore, and then they fight. So yeah, but I love that. So you said that wasn't the only thing though.
Right, because just yesterday I came across this channel in my recommendation feed. It's called Crime Directive. Now, its premise is like any true crime podcast out there.
Okay, you said Crime Directive.
Like,
I thought for a second you said Prime Directive. I'm like, wait, he's getting into Star Trek? What the fuck?
Crime Directive. Like I said, so it plays itself like a serious true crime podcast, but they're not examining real crimes. They're examining like movie incident crimes.
Oh, that's inventive. I like that.
Yeah, they're doing it like super in a very super straight way, which is really interesting.
We're talking like Dirty Harry stuff, right?
Yeah, like the particular one that got recommended to me first was Jurassic Park. So they like go over the video itself that I found was called the Isla Nublar incident. So it pretty much
Isla Nublar incident.
like breaks down what happens in Jurassic Park as if Jurassic Park really happened in real life.
I love it.
Basically.
Yeah, that's actually a cool idea.
So yeah, like basically like a true crime documentary, but it's just about movie crimes.
I would love it if this one also had done something on like a spoof film that kind of makes fun of the like the crime format. So like if they actually did a podcast based off of like Demolition Man, that would be hilarious to me, and I would love that episode for all time, just because of the how inventive that actually could be, like investigating the crimes in Demolition Man. Or something like Blade Runner, that also would be really inventive too.
Yeah, I mean, seems like a pretty small channel up and coming, so I imagine they're at that point where they'd still look at the recommendations pretty closely. So you might want to drop them a comment.
Yeah, I actually will, and maybe we'll even highlight them in the description, so you guys can get the highlight there. All right, so then at that point, have you been able to play anything, or just you've been watching?
Still been playing through Valkyria Chronicles. I'm getting what seems pretty close to the end.
I've seen you come up with like the Steve flag. I'm like, I wonder how pissed off he is right now.
Very. I bounced between being able to do some missions legit and cheat on some other missions, so it's just always like it's a give and take with the game. But I am getting closer to the end. Nice. I think I'm in the last chapter about now.
Jiminy Christmas! It actually makes me wonder how long is this thing to beat?
I imagine if you really know what you're doing and you're really skilled, it probably isn't that long. Most of it's just waiting and watching the enemy move around. It's just like it's like playing a chess game, basically.
Is it Valkyrie or Valkyria?
Valkyria. Sorry, I always want to say. Yeah.
Main story alone, it's about 30 hours. So
okay,
that's not horrible, but that's a couple of months. I think, given the time frame that you have.
Modest length of an RPG, pretty much. So it's what I expect. And well, the game was gifted to me some time ago, so I feel like I should finally play it.
Yeah, funniest thing about that. Brinton, what have you been able to play? What have you been able to watch?
Am I answering as if it's June?
Answer currently. If people want to get mad at me for that, they can totally get mad at me for it. I don't care.
Because I could give you both answers, but I'm going to stick to what you just said.
I don't care.
Okay, well, in June, it was preparing for Dawn Trail, and in July, it's now preparing for The War Within. So I'm just going from one MMO to
the next. Which is funny, because the pre-patch hit this week, and so at that point, like, I think you had literally finished up the main story quest for Dawn Trail last week?
I finished Dawn Trail 2 weeks ago, and I started the raiding quest, and that's when I realized, I'm okay stepping away from this. That particular raid is still good to go until patch 7.2, which won't come out for 8 months, so I got time. And I had been going pretty hard on Final Fantasy XIV for several months now. So this was like, I need to take a break from it, so that way I can start reacclimating my muscle memory to World of Warcraft.
Yes, because those MMOs work differently. I don't care what anybody says.
No, they in some regards there are similarities, but for the most part, yes, they do play differently. Which I can appreciate that difference. So,
like I was telling you when we started playing, like I was having to wrap my brain around like the combat and how the dungeons work and things like that. I had to do those with any other MMO that I played, and sometimes I'm successful about it, and actually rarely I'm not, but because. 2 MMOs come to mind where I couldn't wrap my brain around it and thus didn't get very far. But like that's one of the things I learned, because I've done WoW, I've done the Old Republic, which I also was able to wrap my brain around, and then 14 was also a little bit of a learning curve too.
Yeah, I'm just having that minor relearning curve to get my muscle memory back for World of Warcraft and leveling alts. just getting myself ready to enjoy
Speaking of, have you had any,
the next couple of
have you
weeks.
had any issues with the Warband screen loading up?
Yes.
Ever since Tuesday, mine hasn't loaded up. Like, I get the list, but then I don't get like the campfire scene, and it just lets like I just go click my character kind of thing.
It's on and off for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was playing WoW a little bit before we started, and like there was again still an update, and it's Friday. So, even still, some of my add-ons, like I have a rotation helper add-on because I can't be bothered to
yes.
like I can't be bothered to figure it out on my own. I've been very spoiled by rotation helper add-ons. Yep. And there's still some classes where
it existed in WoW. Like Elitist Jerks used to have one. And funniest thing is the guy who started Elitist Jerks, the website, and then also did this add-on. He's the current game director for World of Warcraft. So there you go.
I love that. No, I love that. The only class right now where the add-on hasn't updated for that particular class is Mage. Yeah. So I'm feeling a little lost right now, but it's fine.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
A lot of my add-ons are still kind of broken. Like, I don't expect them to be fixed this week. But then again, like, I also get a lot of really unique ones that take a while to update. So like Narcissus is one I do for like thumbnails and whatnot. And we're boring the shit out of Alex, but I don't care. I mean, I love you, Alex, but I'm just trying to explain this. And then also so for the War Within, I'm going to be testing a new questing add-on that I've seen a few creators actually take on that I think is amazing when it comes to quest text immersion. So that one is also kind of broken right now because of the new camera changes. But no, welcome to pre-patch week because it just breaks everything. I've already had to update LVUI 2-3 times since the patch.
Well, I have forgotten because I never did. The only pre-patches I've done were Legion, Battle for Azeroth. Mm-hmm. I didn't do Shadowlands. I didn't do Dragonflights. And now here I am.
Did you have add-ons for those? I thought you were running on the basic interface for at least one of them.
No, I had add-ons even back in Legion and Battle for Azeroth because my ex-husband was very like, you gotta have this and this and this and this and this and this. And I was just a brand new player and I was like, okay, what?
This isn't a game. This is a science. Yeah, I've met my share of those players. All right, so yeah.
I mean, it's fine. I can't live without them now, so
that's kind of the downside, isn't it? I had to tell my wife that like a lot of her pet and location add-ons would probably be broken in this expansion just because like they're making all the major changes to the camera, and she just kind of looked at me with puppy dog eyes, just like, what? But I like my pet add-ons, and my rare add-ons, and my fishing add-ons. All of those, I'm like, yeah, they probably will be broken. Sorry.
Oh, that poor gal.
Yeah, she doesn't care. Like the funniest thing is like I make this joke, but she still wants the expansion. But she literally the expansion is almost kind of wasted on her because she is literally doing things that are like 4 or 5 expansions ago just because she wants that achievement or she wants that pet or she wants that mount or something like that.
Good for her.
Hey, you know what? That's her $15 a month. That's what she wants to do. Good on her. She's doing what she wants.
Exactly.
So, but I do understand why she wants the War Within because the War Within gave a mount, and so at that point she wants it. Mm-hmm. Now I will get her addicted to transmog at some point. Hopefully soon.
I'm already addicted to transmog. Let me know when you do your next binge of transmog runs.
That's been the big thing. I've done nothing but transmog runs most of this week just to unwind, and I've already hit like 12 tiers so far, 12 to 13 tiers, and gotten 5 sets completed. So
Very nice.
And Alex is just like, oh my gosh, the obsessive compulsive disorder that goes on with WoW. As far as me, like, I wish I could say that I had anything new to be able to add into that. No, not really, because I did the War Within pre-patch, but I also have been playing all of the various games that I'm reviewing and also casually playing. I'm actually also happy this week because I went up a rank in Killer Instinct's ranked matches. So that was kind of like a personal victory for me. I went from bronze to silver.
That's
You
awesome.
can call me an old fart, but I learn fighting games the way I learn fighting games. And so at that point, those were fun to be able to do. But yeah, aside from that, like I haven't really been able to watch anything aside from things like Beyblade or Gundam or other stuff like that. I know that some people will be disappointed by that, but the downside is that we're actually getting ready for a family vacation, our yearly family vacation, and so I'm trying to just get as much shit done as I can so that week I don't have to worry about jack, and I can just go down to St. George and we can all just have fun because we already have like a bunch of movies planned and stuff like that. So that being said, let's go ahead and get into the events of June 2024. And unfortunately, we have to start things off with some Sweet Baby nonsense.
That was such a good segue.
And now that the I don't even know what to call it anymore. The audio prompt has played. So this is going to be a smaller one because after we had that huge escalation in the previous month, things tended to slow down because, as I've mentioned in earlier months, this didn't have as much impact as a lot of people think that the original Gamergate did comparatively. And so at that point, one of the reasons we covered it is because the positivity is nobody gives a crap because everybody went through that before and are just so done with it that they all just kind of look the other way, kind of thing. So at that point, we didn't really have too much, but we did have a little bit of drama coming to a indie developer. For those who don't know, is the developer's name is Game Science, and they are working on the Chinese indie game Black Myth Wukong. This is actually a game that you and I, Brinton, have talked about because when we've seen trailers for it, it actually looks really stunning.
Yes, I know the game.
Yes, and I'm actually I might actually purchase this like as soon as it comes out because it basically, like, every time I see a trailer, it makes me want to go play it. It literally does because it's just such a unique take on Into the West, basically making Into the West like a Souls type game. So I'm actually very excited for it. However, they've been dealing with a little bit of drama, specifically on their own shores, thankfully, but it has started to happen outside of their own shores, which is that we don't necessarily know the timeline here, but at some point, our friends over at Sweet Baby Inc. decided to approach Game Science. And they approached them in order to gain, or in order for Black Myth Wukong to be able to gain the consultancy that only they can provide. And so at that point, they immediately did their sales pitch, discussed their terms, and everything like that. And Game Science basically gave them the answer of, don't call us, we'll call you. Basically said, we're good, we're going to keep things going, but thanks, but no thanks. And afterwards, funniest thing, they started to get a little bit of pressure from Chinese news outlets claiming that they were bigoted and that they were a bad game designer team and they had problems of people coming out accusing them of bad practices in the gaming industry and whatnot. And then the international gaming journalism community got involved. We had articles from places like IGN calling out the Chinese developer as basically being a bass-ackwards developer in modern times and stating all of the horrible things that they do that are wrong. that nobody should support Black Myth Wukong because that would be supporting bigotry, misogyny, everything you can think of, every innie under the sun. And so, after that, another Chinese outlet decided to reach out to Game Science to see if any of this stuff was true. And unfortunately, all we have from this, because I don't believe the entire article has been translated, they instead only took an excerpt from that interview with Game Science, but we learned some very interesting things. Basically, the terms that were dictated to Game Science by Sweet Baby Inc. was that their game was very problematic, and that it would have a lot of problems outside of China, even though it's going to do good in China regardless. And I actually think that given the hype that Black Myth Wukong currently has internationally, it's going to be completely fine. But that's okay, because they were here to help. As long as Game Science, which is a small indie company in China, paid them $7 million in what they were considering to be guidance fees. We don't know the details of it. Again, I have a feeling the full interview went into that, but we only have the excerpt here. And after that amount was put out towards Game Science, that's when they said, thanks, but no thanks. And it turns out that in that meeting, we also learned that they basically said, well, if you don't take us up on our offer, you're just going to get hit by nothing but haters in the industry. And sure enough, the next day, that's when they started getting negative articles. Sounds very familiar. In fact, one example that I can point out, I know some people are not going to like that I point this out, but the timeline kind of fits. When Candace Owens was starting to get a little bit more notoriety for her viewpoints, she was approached by one Zoe Quinn and basically told a similar sob story, not necessarily with 7 million, but you need to stop saying all those horrible, hateful things. Otherwise, you're going to have haters on your front door. But I can help you out, and we could totally weather this storm as long as you renounce everything that you're saying. Candace basically did the exact same thing. Thanks, but no thanks. And the next day, that's when she got pelted by a bunch of haters that you kind of look at that timeline and go, that's a little conspicuous, isn't it? But that's when we found out from the excerpt about the 7 million in guidance fees. Now, I'm just going to be honest here. Why 7 million? Because everything that I have read about Sweet Baby Inc., they aren't part of marketing, they aren't part of social media hype or anything like that in their contracts. What they basically do is you get a guy or two, in terms of manpower, watching over your game. And one maybe in your writer's room, so that's why I'm saying two. One overseeing the game to make sure that nothing problematic is happening, and then the other one is in the writer's room to make sure nothing problematic is happening. Where did you get... So you're paying both of these people $3.5 million?
I'm doubtful, but okay.
I'm also doubtful.
Yes. Does this amount not seem very big, considering?
It sounds like somebody pulled it out of their ass, really.
It's incredibly excessive, especially for
a consultation. For a consultation, yeah, I can't imagine.
No, there's even the most well-paid consultants in the world don't charge that much.
No, not for consultancy. Maybe additional stuff, but not just for the console.
Yeah, but never to the final amount of $7 million. Right. It's excessive.
Or in the terms of Game Science, according to their quote, exorbitant, which I would agree with. That is way too much. Because I can guarantee you, let's just go with the theory of okay, that person in the writing room is getting $3.5 million for this. Are any of the other writers in that writing team getting $3.5 million a year? Oh, no. Hell no.
Because
of course not.
Oh, hell no. let's just justify this in our heads really quick, Alex, because like, you know, we've wanted to be in writers' rooms or whatever. I mean, maybe depending on the game, maybe you hit 6 digits, but most likely you're going to be 5 digits. That's the way it is.
Mm-hmm. But not for the writers. The vast majority of money.
I think by majority, like 5 digits, and probably not big 5 digits for a writer.
Yeah, I mean, I think a very, very seasoned writer, a very like prominent writer,
Sure.
you might give her a 10 or so grand or more.
Yeah.
Up into the 10 grand range.
I mean, if we're talking EA,
I can't imagine
then maybe the writing lead is getting 6 digits, but even then, I think that's still pushing it.
Yeah, I think most of the money's just gonna go to the producers, right, and to the other, and if it's voice acted, of course, then it's gonna go to the voice talent. The actors probably are gonna get more of the share of the pay there.
Right. And what's made it even worse is that I've noticed online there are actually people thinking that 7 million isn't enough. That they should have charged more.
I really doubt the 7 million figure is even real. To be honest with you, I just don't think this is for real, because we're 7 million, like we've been saying, that's exorbitant. Yes. That's ridiculous. No consulting fee is ever going to go into that high of the millions.
Hell no.
For
not even the hundreds of thousands. Like, it's just excessive.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing that I will say. Alex, I agree with you. I think that it probably wasn't that much, or it was basically where they basically pulled a Peter Venkman and just pulled a bill out of their ass kind of thing. Like that's the only way I could think of they came up with 7 million. But
or maybe remote possibility they're mixing the yuan with the Chinese yuan with the dollar, so maybe it's 7 million Chinese yuan. Let me see what that would actually be in dollars.
At that point, let's just, for the sake of argument, if that is accurate, that's not guidance fees as far as I'm concerned. That's extortion. That's extortion to 100 to an indie game company. I would still consider that
100%.
I would still consider that extortion if that was Ubisoft. That is way too much for guidance fees.
Okay. I don't think my yuan to dollar holds any water either, because that's like $900,000. So
gosh.
I don't think that's the case either. Again, I think somebody's just making up this random number here.
It came from the Chinese article, so the only person that I can think of is either the translator got it wrong or the interviewer got it wrong. But like, again, that's still ridiculous. I would even still say that's still ridiculous if it's 700,000. If it's 70,000, because at that point, like, I can't help but think a writer in the game's writing room, if they earn 50K a year, I might be able to believe that, but I still think that'd be pushing it pretty high. Because we're also talking about, we're still in the time where games companies will literally try to nitpick every single bit of budget that they possibly can, and if they think that you're not cutting your weight, they will cut your overall salary. They will do that. So I still can't even justify like 70,000 a year, just with that one job. So granted, now our debate with the amount aside, this came out, and obviously we saw attached to this. I also have the IGN article that is complaining about a lot of the sexism and complications of Black Myth Wukong. All that basically did was shine a spotlight on it akin to one Stellar Blade. And guess what happened out of that, Alex? At least for the month of June, Black Myth Wukong was the highest pre-ordered game on Steam. We can't confirm the other ones, because I know, like, I think it's due for PlayStation. It didn't hit there, but at least on Steam, it was the highest pre-order game after this. So all this did was put big spotlight on Black Myth Wukong, which is ultimately what it should have done. And it just made the urinalists in this particular argument look like idiots. So, especially since I believe one of them, the one who wrote the IGN article, might have also been another person who wrote a shitpost article on Stellar Blade. So that worked out so well for you the first time. I'm sure it's going to work out the second, right? Definition of insanity totally isn't going to hold here. But that's pretty much all we have. I'm still excited for Black Myth Wukong, and I'm just glad that this kind of blew up in the gaming journalists' face, because as soon as people started hearing about, oh, yeah, they rejected the services of Sweet Baby Inc., especially with the exorbitant amount that was being advertised to them, yeah, I'm good with that. Final thoughts that you guys have?
I look forward to watching... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Brenton.
I just look forward to watching the game be played on Twitch. I don't think I'm gonna get it like day one or anything.
I'm debating on that
but...
too, but I will get it. I'm guaranteeing you that.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think I have anything more to say besides I would be curious if somebody did some further digging just to produce more accurate numbers, because I fully agree with everything that's been said. It's just excessive, it's exploitive, it's extortion, and nothing here sounds or seems correct. Yeah. There is definitely something fishy.
There is definitely some Sweet Baby racketeering going on right now. If that number is accurate, Sweet Baby racketeering is appropriate. So yeah, at that point, Alex, your final thoughts on it?
Well, I'm gonna put on a bit of a tinfoil hat here and say, maybe this whole thing's complete bullshit, and this is all just a big astroturf by the game company to get us to pay attention to this game.
I mean, again, Chinese art.
I don't have any proof of that. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't have any proof of that. That's why I said it's a tinfoil hat conspiracy. But just again, just a quick trawl through the Google News tab. Most of it's just again pre-release hype, buzz news. That's about it. There's not a lot of. There's a couple. If you go back far enough, I guess there's a couple articles about the supposed controversy, but you got to go back quite a ways.
So at that given moment, let's go ahead and move into the next story here. Gee, I'm not totally trying to move us into the E3 stuff. No, I'm totally not doing that. But the other big big thing that we need to talk about, because this happened during June, is Power Rangers fans can need to cry a little bit, because it looks like that the most recent Cosmic Fury series was not successful enough that Hasbro felt confident to both A, continue with the reboot of Power Rangers that they were saying that they were going to do, but also Hasbro's pretty much dumped Power Rangers entirely. And I pretty much say that because the only thing that they really that they really have anymore is the fact that they have licensed out another company to make the toys. That's it. And what's funny is that that's ultimately, I don't like, we're going to talk about this later, but if Hasbro was going to buy Power Rangers, this was the reason they were going to buy it, was for the toys kind of thing. And so because of that, not only has the Netflix deal basically gone up in smoke, so I don't even think they have the rights to the older stuff, which is fine, because now you can pretty much watch every old series up to Cosmic Fury on YouTube now. I believe they even have Dino Fury at this point. And I believe it went back basically to the rights holder, which I believe would be Saban, or to Haim Saban. I'm not sure who the original holder was after the Hasbro buy, or before the Hasbro buy. But
you're right, it was Saban.
Okay, so at that point you have all of that. There really isn't any plans in the future to do anything, at least from Saban's perspective. I think he's pretty much just kind of stuck to, we're going to support the legacy here. But all of the things that everybody was looking forward to, the rebooted movie, I believe they were even talking about doing a sequel to, not Once a Ranger, what was it called? The Netflix special that David Yost did. Shit, what was it called? Once a Ranger? Once and Always.
Thought it was.
Once and Always.
Once and Always. There you go.
So there was talk about maybe a sequel to that. All of that's gone. And what's even more disappointing about this in particular is that Hasbro's statements in regards to it have shifted dramatically, because I remember when Hasbro acquired Power Rangers and they were very excited to have Power Rangers because, you know, they were going to do the toy rights and everything like that, especially since the other thing that they had was the comic deal. And by the way, guess what? Comics are also dead too. But apparently now, when you ask Hasbro if they were excited about having Power Rangers, they basically have done a 180 turn and basically said they have never wanted it in the first place. It was somehow an accident done by their R&D. No, it wasn't done by their R&D team, but the person who bought it didn't consult the R&D team, and thus it was never something that Hasbro wanted. They never wanted the Power Rangers. Are you kidding me?
Kind of doubtful.
After
but okay.
all these years?
Sounds like this, that I really wish that there was an audio portion to the Press X to Doubt GIF that is out there of not True Crimes, LA Noire. I really wish I could put up an audio version of that, because that's pretty much there. Is like they are 180ing it because they couldn't do what they wanted to do with it, and it was too costly. And so at that point, I especially love that the creator of Cosmic Fury, or at least the lead writer on Cosmic Fury, is kind of joining into this, which is like, oh, well, that's a crying shame that we couldn't really fulfill our complete vision for it. Too bad. And also just like, well, I get that. I get that Hasbro is a big company, and they really should have everybody consulted. Even their R&D department, even their PR department should be consulted. So obviously everybody's about face. Power Rangers is a horrible thing, and we should all feel horribly sad that we ever supported it in the first place. Which just makes me laugh, because again, Haim Saban is already doing what everybody has basically been begging, and put up all of it on YouTube. And I can't remember the official channel. I think it's official Power Rangers, but like all the series are up. You can watch them. And that's pretty much what I think Power Rangers is going to be, at least for the next 5 to 10 years, until they figure out what to do with it. I don't know what Haim Saban's going to do with it. I don't know if he has a plan, but ultimately it is kind of sad. This is basically the end of Power Rangers for a while.
It sounds like it.
Mm-hmm.
And it just makes me even sadder, because it sounds to me like they were doing fairly well up until Dino Fury, when the lead writer for Cosmic Fury, Simon Bennett, got brought on, and they were trying all of the stuff they were going to try with Once and Always, and to fans, it didn't work. And I also love the fact that Simon Bennett is also going on a tear about basically that adults should not care about this show. After all, it's only for kids. I hate that fucking argument. I hate it horribly, because whenever it's made with any show, some of these shows, I don't know if people like Simon Bennett can realize this, but some of these shows have family value because of the fact that you could show it to your kids. And you all can get the humor, you all can get the lessons, you all can enjoy the combat and the Megazords and everything like that. And the same thing applies to things like He-Man, to Transformers, to G.I. Joe, for crying out loud. I mean, that's why we were hearing stories of Jason David Frank meeting entire generations, where you had the grandmother who was the original fan, who got her daughter into it, and then they got the granddaughter into it, and he had pictures of him with all three of those generations. It's like Jiminy Christmas, man. Stop with the argument of it's a kid's show, you really shouldn't care.
No, I completely agree with you, Adam, because that same, like the very first thought that came into my head as you actually segued into what you said was that a lot of these shows, like Power Rangers and Pokemon and things from the 80s and 90s, is what like you grew up on, what I grew up on, what Alex grew up on. Those are not things that we're gonna toss by the wayside and get rid of and, oh, now I have to be an adult. I honestly feel that the people who really engaged with these franchises and held them close to heart are the ones who are way more chill and relaxed and happier in life than those who just completely throw away their inner child and is like, hey, it's time to be this stoic adult.
Right.
And it's like good luck. That's going to be misery for you. Been there, done that. It's miserable. I'll save you to, spoiler alert, it's miserable if I haven't stated that word enough. And the and when I hear stupidity like, well, it's really meant for kids. Well, Pokemon's really meant for kids, and Game Freak is very cognizant of the fact that they're not catering just to children. They're catering to me and older.
Right.
They're completely aware that Pokemon fans or anybody
what they're doing is
above the age of 35.
They're treating you like the cornerstone kind of thing. They're treating you as the foundation that they can get that funding to be able to do it. And then it's your kids that they're treating as the capstone, basically. They're basically saying, oh, these are the new ones that we can bring in because this person's obviously a parent now, and he's going to bring his kid into that. Which, I mean, I love the fact that you brought up Pokemon because I still remember, I didn't see the episode until probably months later, but I still remember the Twitter reactions of Ash's ascension, basically, where he had his final moment with, I can't remember the guy's name from, I think it's Leon from...
Yeah.
I still remember to this day on Twitter, like, everybody, oh god, I'm crying. This is so great. That revamp, or that remix first season opening, that's so great. I'm crying. I still remember that. So yeah, the series for kids that totally doesn't bring any other demographics in there. None at all.
Not Adam, like, I still will not remember. Like, I will never forget the morning that Jason woke up and found me sobbing as I'm looking at my phone. And he's like, babe, what's wrong? And I was like, Ash Ketchum became a Pokemon master.
Yes!
And he just went,
So great.
he literally turned around and went back to sleep. I will never forget that. Like, I walked so that my nephew can run with his love of Pokemon.
Well, I mean,
and I'm the coolest uncle in the whole fucking world.
Alex, I am not the biggest Pokemon fan, right? Like, I didn't follow the anime as much as you and your sister did or anything like that. I still remember the night that she watched that moment, months later, because it takes forever for Andrea to get to anything, kind of like me.
Right.
Oh, bless her.
And I was dead tired. I remember I had worked a 10-hour shift that day. I was wrecked. My knees hurt. My arms hurt. I was this close to completely falling asleep. And all of a sudden I heard that dun, 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 and I woke right the fuck up and I watched that last moment. Because even to me, like, that was a cool moment. Because that's a capstone on a character.
I'm getting goosebumps just like recalling the memory, and I can feel tears welling up in my eyes. Sorry, I'm getting emotional again.
Well, like, for me, for you,
Mm.
that's Ash. For me, that was Optimus Prime when he does, like, you and I, we all watched the Transformers 86 movie. That is the Optimus Prime Rambo assault on the Decepticons, okay? For me, that is being able to see King Arthur in any form finally ascend the throne and achieve the dream kind of thing. I love moments like this because it's something that can promote closure to a character or a character arc. When Goku became the Super Saiyan, the being of legend, everybody loved it. I wasn't in that camp. I was Super Saiyan too. But That's the thing. I love those moments. Nope, those are all for kids. Bull fucking shit. I still
Completely agree.
I could still, like, one of the things I absolutely loved was when my nieces watched Avatar: The Last Airbender for the first time. They saw Korra before that because it came out when they were kids, but they didn't realize just how good Avatar was compared to Korra. And the lessons that were coming out of it, like, I literally would grill them about, like, okay, well, what did you think about when this thing happened? What do you think about, this happened? And the lessons that they were learning from that, and the wholesome family moments that were being had, because that was technically my brother's first time watching all of Avatar: The Last Airbender all the way through after Korra. Like, this isn't just a kid's thing. This is something that can be shared with families, especially a lot of the lessons and the morals that are being taught. And, oh, by the way, not being shoved down our throats. Do you want to know one thing I'll give Korra credit for that I won't give to anything modern Star Wars has done? At the end of Korra, they didn't shove "Korra's gay" down my throat all the time. Whereas everything I hear about anything Mandalorian Season 2 on, shoving narratives down our throats. Even Cosmic Fury. I've heard that complaint of Cosmic Fury. So at that point, maybe the originals, like Pokemon, maybe they did it right. Maybe they got us invested in the characters. I don't know. Maybe I'm just up my own ass. I don't know.
I mean, the original Power Rangers, though, could be pretty preachy on its own.
No. You get no argument from me on that, okay? Like, good God, there are moments that make me, like, I'm of the Saved by the Bell generation, Alex, and those moments make me cringe even to this day. I probably didn't care when I was a kid, but I care now. But, like, for me, the nostalgia factor of the original Power Rangers is stuff like Green with Evil.
Yeah, for sure.
Green with Evil or White Light, like, those are amazing episodes. Even some of the other series have had their awesome moments, and so it's one of those things where I'm glad that ultimately people will still be able to experience this. Like, these shows are out on YouTube, which is, as far as anybody is concerned, public access television at this point. You can go and watch old school Power Rangers, and your kids can still learn something from it, and you can sit on the couch and watch it with them. Kind of thing. I mean, for crying out loud, like, most modern cartoons, you can't even do that, and I would argue that Animaniacs, you could totally do that. And everybody gets something unique. And that's what makes me ultimately sad about this. Is like, yes, you're going to have access to this, but we aren't going to continue anything. And I also do feel bad for the comic book fans, because that Power Rangers comic was doing really well and was very well complimented for some of the directions that even it was taking. And I've heard this argument that the Power Rangers comic got a little woke, but they eventually pulled it back and made it more character driven again, and people were destroyed when they heard that Boom was not going to be able to renew Power Rangers for another comic run. So, yeah, any final thoughts on this one? I think we've hit the nail on the head for a lot of this stuff, but it makes me sad. It really makes me wish that, we wouldn't get the stupid arguments of like, well, this is a kid series, you're not supposed to care. But also that, when it's people like Simon Bennett whose different direction for the show didn't work out, and ultimately this is kind of their answer to it, it irritates the crap out of me. But at least people can go and see the original stuff. And yes, I'm showing my kids Power Rangers. You have a problem with that, suck it.
If I say anything else, I'm just going to end up almost crying like I just did. No. So I'm done.
No, because Ash was a good moment too. And it still kind of makes me cry a little bit. They're not going to do anything more with Ash. Instead, they're going to focus on other characters. I get why they're doing that, but Ash was 10 forever, man. The one kid besides Gary Coleman that refused to age. Okay, I can't say that about Gary Coleman because there's plenty of videos of him busting people as a mall cop. But have you seen any of those videos, man? Some of them are brutal. Dude, he could take a motherfucker down.
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
feisty.
he was. I loved it. All right, so now we get to get into the meat of tonight, which is E3 season. And unfortunately, we have to start with Xbox. But
I don't know why that was so funny.
Well,
we're gonna talk E3. Too bad it has to be with Xbox first.
No, sorry. I Editor Drac, bring in the Curb Your Enthusiasm. We need that.
Oh my gosh. So funny.
We should start technically here. Because if people remember from the previous month, I did say that there was a lot of speculation that Sony would have another state of play in the middle of June in order to make up for the lackluster performance that they had. They did not. And they got lambasted. Not just by the internet, by some of their own developers. I even saw Hideo Kojima make a crack or two at Sony's expense. It was pretty good. But that's pretty much all you got from Sony, which is really disappointing because they still have a bunch of games in the pipeline, according to them, that they really wanted to talk about, and they never got around to it. So, that being said, let's move into the absolute failure that was the Xbox conference. I can't say it was a failure. Ultimately, it was pretty, like, compared to Sony, Xbox was pretty meh. It definitely worked out for the diehard Xbox fans, but, well, you're not talking to any of them on this podcast now, are you? So, let's go ahead and start up with the announcements here. So we have Call of Duty Black Ops 6 get a gameplay trailer. Nobody's a Call of Duty fan, so fuck Call of Duty. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud? This was probably the biggest announcement that came out of the Xbox conference. Doom the Dark Ages. So basically Doom 3 for the new id Doom series. Doom the Dark Ages is basically going to be a more... They like to point out that it's more of a melee focused, even though you're still going to have access to things like shotguns and BFGs and stuff like that. But the biggest emphasis from this trailer reveal was the fact that you get a chainsaw shield now, which I have a feeling is going to replace your overall chainsaw in the Doom games, and thus its mechanics as well. And you'll also be able to get things like maces, and they did even show the sword of the Doom Slayer in there. So Doom the Dark Ages is probably the one that a lot of people walked away with saying, here's the solid success from the Xbox conference. And even me and Andrea were excited when we found out that it was coming. And I believe they even said it was coming out this year. I'm not remembering the release date off the top of my head, but I think it was November of this year. So, Doom the Dark Ages. Then we had State of Decay 3, which, I mean, some people were excited about it. That was kind of cool. Any State of Decay fans? No? Okay. Dragon Age.
You didn't even let us answer.
No, go ahead.
No, the answer is no. I'm just saying.
Then it was BioWare's turn, and they announced Dragon Age: The Veilguard, which had, I believe, been leaked a month before that they were working on it. And it was complicated, because I know that there were still some Dragon Age fans that were interested in what was being offered in the Veilguard, but a majority of them were disappointed that Veilguard was their reveal, as opposed to something with a little bit more depth. That's the major complaint that I've seen from a lot of Dragon Age fans, is not a whole lot of depth to this one. Then we had Fallout 76, that game that's somehow still alive, that we have no idea why. But we do know that they got a bunch of new employees. So Fallout 76 players will soon be able to play as a ghoul in an upcoming patch. So you'll be able to play as a ghoul character, basically more character creation options for it. And also, I believe that they're also going to be adding in clothing and character elements from the Prime Video Fallout TV series into 76 as well. So you've got that. Starfield has DLC coming, and according to Todd Howard, he wants to have a DLC pack for Starfield once a year.
Oh, Todd, will you never learn?
Oh, Todd, will you ever stop being a coward? Yeah. So the best part is that these DLCs, well, I believe he is on the record as saying that they wouldn't be big DLCs. They'd be roughly 20 to 30 hour DLCs, which I don't think he's properly figured out DLC personally, because I have a feeling that that'll be more like 10 hours. But he is thoroughly convinced that Microsoft is going to let him do a Starfield DLC once every year. Well, Todd, I also hope that for your sake, money starts raining from the sky, because that's the only way that shit's going to happen. Just saying. Any other thoughts on Starfield? Did you even play Starfield, Brinson? Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I'm just, from what I've read and heard, this game like had a bunch of players playing at the start, and then it just died hard and fast.
So here's
so
the numbers and the metrics for you, Brinson. Couldn't even crack 1 million
Thank you.
active players. It cracked about
Oh my
800K
God.
in the first weekend. And this was when all the controversy with the pronouns and all that stuff happened. Couldn't even crack 800 active players, or 800K active players. And Todd wants DLC every year. Keep in mind, a week later, it wasn't even cracking in, I believe it was in the 5 digits at that point. Like 80% of the audience just left.
And he thinks that there's interest for
Sure.
this. And what it was that he, and okay.
But then again,
Moving
Todd
on.
also thinks there's interest in Fallout 76. So we all
That's a
can
good
tell how
point.
delusional Todd Howard is. But Drac, he's the visionary. No, he's not.
There's definitely, there is an extreme amount of delusion coming out of Microsoft.
I can tell you his head is full of something. It's just not visions.
Hmm.
More like shit.
It could be hallucinations from whatever he's smoking.
That too. I'll give you that. He needs to take away the vape pen. People mentioned this quite a bit, and I don't know if I would consider this as big of a success as Microsoft made it out to be. But this was officially when we found out about World of Warcraft: The War Within's release date of August 26th. The reason people thought it was interesting was because this was the first time World of Warcraft or any Blizzard game had been a part of any of these E3 events. First of all, you're wrong. They were part of it. They just weren't in the console showcases. They were in the PC gaming portion of it, which never really gets a spotlight. So it's not as big a revelation as people thought it was, although the trailer for War Within got a lot of people excited. However, the reason that people were excited that they were seeing it and thus got disappointed right after is they thought they were also going to be announcing an Xbox client for World of Warcraft.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of people still hoping that happens.
Oh, there are still people that are hoping that your World of Warcraft subscription will be included with Game Pass. Fat chance of that happening. It's not happening. Or do I need to mention that in recent events, Game Pass's prices are going up?
Are they? Oh, we'll get into that.
We'll get there. But yeah, there's a price hike coming for Game Pass. So you guys can look forward to that. So then we also got Clair Obscure Expedition 33, which is the new third-person adventure game from the Sandfall Interactive, I believe is the official team name. And it was kind of meh for a lot of people, although I do know a few that were interested. The next game I would actually say that was probably the more intriguing one out of the Xbox conference was South of Midnight. This is the new game that's being made by Compulsion Games, the people who made We Happy Few. And I actually looked at this trailer along with Andrea, and we were genuinely curious about it. I am a little disappointed to find out that our favorite Sweet Baby Racketeers are involved with it, but I'm at least willing to check out more trailers. It's a weird deal because it looks like it's going to be set in a almost fictional, hyper-realistic bayou. And basically, it's a girl who's trying to survive in this hyper-realistic bayou with magical alligators and giant catfish and stuff like that. But I was kind of surprised that, even though we have a black woman on screen, they still put her in the horrible accents that we're not allowed to do, which are the basic Louisiana kind of guarantee kind of accents. For some reason, you can't do that with black characters anymore. And that was...
Cajun accent.
What was that?
So like a Cajun accent.
Yeah, and actually there was quite a bit of social media backlash in regards to that. It's like, why can't she speak regular? Well, it's based in a bayou. But
so it would make sense for her to have the accent of where she lives. Exactly.
Maybe based in the world. Maybe y'all ought to shut up. I will admit I'm at least interested to look into this, and I will eat my crow if We Happy Few can pull this, or not We Happy Few, Compulsion can pull this off compared to We Happy Few, because to me, We Happy Few was a very big disappointment. The other big one that happened was Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. The game that everybody thought was going to be exclusive, guess what? It's not. It's going to be multi-platform. This is the remake of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, and we got to see a few of the cutscenes and the redone models for Snake, as well as some of the CQC combat. It did look interesting, however, I was not able to watch the complete trailer, and some of the complaints that people were making is very indicative of Silent Hill 2, the remake, where they're changing lighting, they're changing character, the look of characters, etc. So that already has me very worried, because Snake Eater, in my opinion, is the best of the Metal Gear Solid series, and I don't want them screwing that up. Especially considering its history and how beloved it is. So that being said, then we go into Sea of Thieves, which has more content coming in Season 13. Very cool. And that actually would be starting yesterday. Believe it or not.
Nice.
Then, if people remember, Sony had Concord, which was going to be their Overwatch clone. That's when Xbox decided to reveal Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn, their Overwatch clone. The company that owns Overwatch had to make an Overwatch clone. It's not really an Overwatch clone. It's an action game. It has hero shooter-esque elements, but it's more Souls-like in nature. So I will say that. But I find it funny that we had Overwatch clones. And on top of that, there's a Marvel Overwatch clone that's out there right now. I don't know why we have all the Overwatch clones, Brinton, but we do.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. I feel that particular genre has run its course.
I looked at all of these that were being announced, and maybe I was the only one thinking this, but it reminded me of when Xbox announced the Kinect, as well as Sony announced their Wiimote, basically. It's like, look, we have waggle controls too, everybody! That's how it came off. I wish I could say anything better than that, but sorry, I keep cutting you off.
No, you're fine. I'm just being the peanut gallery tonight.
Then we had something that Rare fans had been looking forward to and were deeply disappointed by, a Perfect Dark reboot. Do you know the Perfect Dark series, Alex?
No, I don't know that one.
It started in the N64 days. It was basically the GoldenEye team, because they couldn't do another James Bond game. They wanted to be able to work on another shooter, and so they worked on a stealth shooter called Perfect Dark. And that game was niche success. It wasn't roaring success. I think its numbers were comparable to things like Blast Corps and Jet Force Gemini for Rare. But then they did Perfect Dark Zero for the 360 as a launch title, and that bombed horribly. And now we have a Perfect Dark reboot that is basically a Call of Duty clone.
Well, of course it is.
With as Twitter has called her, Commander Resting Bitch Face. No, they.
I mean, that's what I.
Go ahead. Sorry.
That's what I look like. No, I was gonna say that's what I look like most of the time anyway. So I totally get it.
Like, I don't care at this point, because at this point I've called it faux stoic, because it's female characters trying to look stoic, and instead they just look pissed off, like they got off on the wrong side of the bed. And so I do laugh when social media is like, oh look, Command or General Resting Bitch Face, Agent Resting Bitch Face, because that's basically what everybody else got out of it. Whereas I watched the trailer and I went, dear God, it's a Call of Duty clone. This is fucked up. Because even I remember the original Perfect Dark, and it was a stealth shooter. It wasn't a COD clone. If anything, it was like, I can't even say Splinter Cell, because Splinter Cell was third person. But like it was that kind of combat. And no, Call of Duty clone now. Way to stay faithful, Rare. Well, Uncle Phil. Then we got Age of Mythology Retold, which is, I believe, no, I believe this is from Firaxis, so it's from the same people who did Age of Empires. This is basically going to be a retelling, I believe, of their Age of Mythologies way back when, so you can have the same RTS quality but in modern graphics. So cool on you guys. And then we had our second Blizzard announcement, which was Vessel of Hatred, officially getting the expansion release date of October 8th. And not a whole lot of people cared, because Loot Reborn hadn't happened yet. And so Diablo fans were, I know this isn't surprising, pissed off at Blizzard. And trust me, that pissed off hasn't really changed, because even with their reveal of the Spiritborn, Diablo fans aren't happy with Blizzard. Let's put it that way. Then we got to see our second look at the upcoming Fable game. And that's not looking very promising, but hey, good luck on that one, I guess. And ultimately, that's pretty much all that majorly happened, although I will point this one out. Don't Nod did get a little bit of a screen time, because we got to see Life is Strange Double Exposure is going to be coming out October 29th. I believe this is the sequel to the first season, right, Brinton?
I guess you could call it a sequel. It's the protagonist in Double Exposure is the same protagonist from the very first game. So
same mechanics, probably.
Yeah, I mean, they have from what I've read, because I haven't really followed it as much as I'm sure some people thought I would, the mechanics of Max's time powers have changed. Where instead of rewinding time, she can literally see two timelines flowing exactly side by side. But I'm not entirely sure how, like, specifically what the game is about, what the story is about, what canonical storyline from her first game is going to be followed. I haven't really looked into it all that much.
Okay. So yeah, we had that. We also got to see our second look at Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. And I don't know if you guys saw this trailer or not, but it pretty much confirmed my worst fears. I have a feeling that the female lead is going to slowly replace Indy, which is very disappointing. And the first-person Indy mechanics they're not selling me. Sorry. This really should have been third person, I'm just saying. And I get it. It's the developer behind the Wolfenstein games, okay? So they know how to work with first person. I'm not criticizing them. They should have put it in a third person studio's hands. They really should have. And then I think it might have landed a little bit better with me, at least. But I'm not looking forward to this indie game. I say indie game, but no, I mean Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones, I'm not looking forward to the Great Circle. Alex, have you seen this trailer?
I've not seen the trailer, but hearing it's first person is already a major turnoff.
I remember having conversations with Brenton as well. It's like, first person, really? Like, you couldn't have learned from fucking Uncharted? And no, they didn't, because the
I'm like super over first person games. Honestly, I don't know how to really like fully explain it. I would just rather
it's just
like I want to see.
because like
I just want to see the avatar.
I mean, for crying out loud, like people loved when the new Tomb Raiders came out and it was third person and it was basically a competitor to Uncharted, and people loved that concept so much so that I remember numerous people in college saying like, we really need an Indiana Jones game in that format. Why don't we have one? And then this comes out a decade later, and everybody's just disappointed by it. In fact, I saw a lot of people complaining on as opposed to when the first trailer happened, they were complaining hard because the whip gameplay, which was supposed to be able to sell the first person according to Machine Games, it just didn't. It didn't sell it for anybody. People still wanted third person. So I've actually seen a big movement basically saying like, maybe when you add a third person mode, then we'll buy it. But right now we're not planning on buying it. So good luck, Machine Games. Then we had Wu Chang Fallen Feathers. This is another Souls-like that's going to be coming out that actually looks pretty good. Then we got a bunch of other things, including Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is still just faltering. Ubisoft, you really need to stop. The next big announcement, and this one was 50-50. I honestly can tell you, looking at the reaction, it is 50-50. Gears of War officially announced a new game. Now, keep in mind, Gears of War 5 was way back, I think, 2016. So they have been waiting.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been like 8 years. And so people were thinking the next big Gears of War announcement is going to be Gears 6. And we are looking forward to Gears 6 because of the, I don't even know what the ending is, but apparently I've been told I will love the ending. And they announce Gears of War E-Day. This is basically Gears of War 0. Not 6, 0. This is going to cover, they're basically putting you back in the pilot seat of Marcus Phoenix on the infamous E-Day, or Emergence Day, when the Locust officially attacked and the war officially began. So it's basically a prequel. Now, I'm not saying that people are immediately pissed off about it, because there were actually people going, you know what? I would love to be able to see E-Day. I would love to be able to see Marcus Phoenix rise up and be the war hero that everybody knows him to be in the Gears series. But I also saw a lot of people screaming, "Where Gears 6?" To which Uncle Phil even came out and said, well, we've got that coming soon. While he was still announcing that he was still making good decisions in regards to Activision Blizzard and to Bethesda in interviews. Oh, Uncle Phil, you never disappoint. And then I find this aptly appropriate because they started with Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and they ended on Call of Duty Black Ops 6, unveiling the celebrity promotion that they have with Call of Duty Black Ops 6. That's it. That was all of the Xbox announcements there. So I have no problem telling you guys it was a mixed bag. There was some good stuff in there, but it was amongst a huge pile of dog turds. And more importantly, more of the same. Shooters. I will say that there were some Souls-like action RPGs in there, but even that's becoming kind of the norm with Xbox now. There really wasn't any new ideas being thrown out there. So, final thoughts on the Xbox conference from either of you?
I mean, I don't play Xbox, so nothing to really say for me.
Yeah, pretty much.
I didn't watch it. Everything that I now know about the showcase, I learned literally in the last 30 minutes.
You're welcome.
However, I did. Yes, thank you very much. I knew of the War Within just because I've been following it, and I had and double exposure. I also followed the new. I'm sorry, I needed to burp there for a second. The new Dragon Age game I've been kind of following a little bit as well. However, like I just had no interest really in hearing any more silliness and from this studio. Like I'm over it.
And for me, like if I had a takeaway of the games that I walked away excited with from this, it was roughly Doom: The Dark Ages, because both me and Andrea were excited for that. We didn't see that coming at all. The second one is South of Midnight, because it intrigued me, like enough to a point where I'm very interested to see what Compulsion Games pulls off with it. And then finally, probably the other big announcement that came out of it that was remotely interesting to me was Gears of War E-Day, but primarily because I'm hoping they will get Gears 6 out to the Gears fans. The Gears fans have waited pretty much, I want to say, like a decade. Let me double check this. Or actually, Alex, can you check this for me? Gear 5's release date?
Sure. All right, I'll look it up.
Because it has to be a while ago. But unfortunately, that and the other big thing that they also announced there was digital versions of the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series, the new Series X, because the X is supposed to be the one with the disc drive in it. Now they're going to do a digital version of it, but from what I understand, their hardware sales aren't that great, so they're making more consoles that they're not going to be able to sell off. So, Sony and Microsoft didn't really deliver for a lot of people. And then a little company came along called Nintendo. Holy shit.
To answer your question, though, Gears 5 released on September 6, 2019.
Okay, so it's not that long, but even then, it's still like 5-6 years. So that's still quite a bit of time. So at that point, and for all the people that want to say, well, we still have like this 5 to 7 year game cycle. Yeah, you do, and you shouldn't, because you should be putting out a bunch of other games in the meantime. But okay, whatever. So now we can get into Nintendo, because they were the ones that basically wowed everybody. And I'm going to go ahead and get into the biggest announcements first. The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom is coming out this September, and it is the first Zelda game where you actually play as Zelda. Not the first one, but you get my point.
Yeah.
So this is basically, I don't think it's from the same company who did the Link's Awakening remaster, but it is a similar team within it that basically wanted to do this Zelda type game, and they basically utilized I believe it's the Link Between Worlds engine to be able to do it, but they also incorporated a new mechanic for Zelda, which is the Tri-Rod. And the Tri-Rod creates echoes of objects so that you're able to use them as a puzzle-solving element. So basically, if you scan a bookshelf, you will be able to create an echo of that bookshelf and be able to use it to solve puzzles. I'm making it sound really simplistic, but you know what? That's why Zelda works. Mm-hmm. So at that point, September 26th is when we're going to be getting this. What was you guys' reaction to Echoes of Wisdom?
Excited. I know that you and I had talked about when rumors of a Zelda game where you get to play as Zelda started to surface, and the only thing I had stated was, I'm just curious how it would play.
Right.
Like, what are the mechanics going to be? How are they going to bring this to fruition? And I'm not even upset that it's pretty much like you can just goof off the entire time with like random echoes of furniture for the entire game. Like, I don't even care. I think that's super fun. I think it's super silly, and I'm going to litter the land of Hyrule with beds. Like,
You gotta sleep somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to climb this mountain? Bed.
Bad.
Need to cross this chasm? Bed. Defeat this boss? I'm just going to toss a couple beds in it. Maybe you'll get tired. You know? Like, it's going to be ridiculous. Like honestly, I think the mechanic is like borderline super silly and stupid, and I'm 100% here for it.
I mean, look at the Peach game that came out earlier this year. A lot of people thought the gimmick of that was stupid, and look, it did well. So at that point, like,
it did so well.
So at that point, like, what's the problem here? I even saw people complaining about the fact that they went back to kind of a retro-looking Zelda engine in order to do the first game of Zelda. And I agree. I tend to agree with Onuma's understanding of this, is that with what they were trying to do, they wanted to kind of go back to basics and be able to discover what a Zelda game would feel like. And to them, that meant we go back to kind of a retro style for Zelda. I don't get the problem here. It looks fine. And frankly, you know, you just barely brought up this, Brenton, but like, what's different between this kind of gameplay and Tears of the Kingdom? Because Tears of the Kingdom basically
like nothing, honestly.
Yeah, like there are distinct differences.
Just knowing Nintendo fans and having talked about Nintendo games for years and years and years, especially on this show, I can tell you right now, it's the same reaction we got when we got like the first open world Pokemon game. People, or players rather, really just wanted, at least with Pokemon, for it to feel like Breath of the Wild, but Pokemon. And that's never going to happen. And I think a lot of players were hoping for like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom-esque Zelda game, but you play as Zelda. And I tried conceptualizing what that would look like, and Echoes of Wisdom makes way more sense than you playing as Zelda in a Tears of the Kingdom-esque world with all the freedom your heart desires. I just couldn't conceptualize it into Tears of the Kingdom style approach.
And a lot of people don't realize this, but you know, they're kind of getting into a pattern of like, okay, we're gonna have a big Breath of the Wild type open world game come out, and then you're gonna have a nostalgic game in older engines come out. Because, you know, we had Breath of the Wild, and then later on we got the Link's Awakening remaster, and nobody complained about it because it was still very imaginative in how the engine worked. And the same thing is true as far as I'm concerned with Echoes of Wisdom, because just because it looks retro doesn't mean that it's not going to have amazing gameplay. That they're not going to be able to take a simple thing as being able to scan a bed and make that inventive to you, because look at Tears of the Kingdom. That's what Tears of the Kingdom did, is you were able to build your own planes and cars and everything like that, and everybody still enjoyed the hell out of it. What makes you think that they're not going to enjoy, oh, I have to cross this river, bed, and there you go.
I cannot wait. It's going to be so stupid.
I looked at that and went, you know what? Cool. That works for them. I like this idea. I even love that Onuma basically teased that, you know, we haven't even shown you I can't remember how exactly he said it, but he basically said that there were some game-breaking echoes that would be able to help with things like speed runs and whatnot. And I'm like, woo, that's a bold thing to say, Onuma, because you basically just got every person who wants to break Zelda games salivating at that, because that's what they do. They love to break Zelda games.
He also had even stated that there's so many echoes that he doesn't even know what they all are.
No, and people have asked him months later, he still doesn't have a final count.
And I think that is awesome.
I mean, I'm sure that you can't like echo Ganon, but there's still a lot of things in the game you can echo, and that's totally fine. So the next major announcement, or actually, Alex, did you have any final thoughts on this one?
Well, okay. I'm definitely interested. I'm intrigued with Echoes of Wisdom. I am a bit put off by the art style, even if I wasn't necessarily expecting like Zelda's first real solo outing to be in a big Breath of the Wild or Tears style engine necessarily. But I'm not a big fan of the whole Funko Pop looking art style, I must admit. But I'm willing to give the game a fair shake, though.
Yeah, to me it looks like Link's Awakening, but I can kind of see that. I can see that viewpoint. So
Yeah.
Super
I
fair.
hope you guys don't mind that. I'm gonna wait on the bigger announcements, and we'll get into those in a little bit. But the next big one that we're gonna talk about is Mario and Luigi Brothership is jumping to Nintendo Switch in November. So, a Zelda game in September, a Mario game in November. And more importantly, it's a return of the Mario and Luigi series. For those who don't know what that is roughly the one of two spiritual successors to Super Mario RPG. The two successors are roughly Paper Mario and Mario and Luigi. And so this is the first time since I think they had a DS. No, they had a 3DS game. Since we've seen a Mario and Luigi game, but most of the Mario and Luigi games are handheld titles. So now we're going to get our first console debut of Mario and Luigi. And I don't know about you, Brenton, I was excited about this because
Me too.
I haven't played the Mario and Luigi series primarily because it is on handhelds, but I've always heard good things about it, and I've always wanted to try it out if I got a free minute, and so that's the same case here. Alex, did you see this announcement at all?
No, I missed this one.
How do you feel about a Mario and Luigi RPG?
No strong feelings. I mean, I never played like Mario RPG or Paper Mario or anything like that.
The best way I know how to describe it, and maybe if I'm wrong, Brenton, you can correct me. Paper Mario tends to go in the serious kind of angle, whereas Mario and Luigi tends to go on the comical side. And so we have a lot more comical angles in the Mario and Luigi series compared to Paper Mario, which has like serious stuff going on.
It literally was taking Super Mario RPG and taking its comedic seriousness and creating two separate franchises.
Because some of the Mario RPG fans didn't like the seriousness, and some of them didn't like the comic DS. So at that point, it was just the best way to do it. They had to separate it.
The last entry in the Mario and Luigi series was back in 2015. So it's been almost a decade since we've had a main entry in this series, which is what makes it so exciting. I've played the first two, which were Superstar Saga and Partners in Time. Those were a lot of fun. I never played the third one. I kind of played the fourth one a little bit, and I played the demo for the one that came out in 2015.
What's the one that you go inside Bowser?
Bowser's Inside Story.
That's the one I've seen the most of.
I've never played that one.
So yeah, we have the Mario and Luigi Brothership. I'm actually very excited about this, and again, I'd like to point out September, November. That's pretty good, Nintendo. You've already got a pretty good holiday lineup. The next up is Dragon Quest. Fans rejoice, because for all the people that were so happy when Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake got announced, which is basically bringing Dragon Quest III into the Octopath Traveler engine, they also announced that Dragon Quest 1 and 2 would also be joining HD 2D remakes in 2025. So you'll be able to get Dragon Quest III in November, but don't worry, because Dragon Quest 1 and 2 are going to be coming the following year, which is basically what a lot of Dragon Quest fans wanted, because if you're going to do one in the trilogy, you might as well do them all. And considering what the engine looks like, this was a good decision by Square Enix. I will say that they've made some difficult or some bad decisions in regards to the 3 HD 2D remake, but that's for another month. So, that being said, any other Dragon Quest fans here? I already can feel Romney off in the distance rejoicing, it feels good to me.
Dragon Quest a little with number 10, which I really enjoyed. But I am not that's my reaction was that's super cool.
Yes.
But it wasn't but not followed by I cannot wait.
Well, the thing that I'm happy about is that, like, way back when all three of these games got Game Boy Color re-releases and put more into a more Akira Toriyama kind of art style, because, in the NES days, you really couldn't do that. So at that point, the fact that they got that, but it's been forever since the original three have been touched. I believe every other game has been pretty much remade before this, and so now you're finally getting the HD 2D remakes of the original Erdrick trilogy, which to me is just awesome as far as I'm concerned. Alex, do you have any thoughts on this?
Not really. I've never played any Dragon Quest.
Okay, so then at that point we have Donkey Kong Country Returns HD is coming January 2025. Now, they've officially said that this is not based on the original Wii version. It is based on the original Wii version. However, it will incorporate both mechanics and additional stages from the 3DS remake of the game. So you can look forward to that next year. I am stoked about this because I had played the original Wii version, wasn't really on board with the motion control mechanics, and I'd gotten told that if I didn't love that I should play the 3DS version. I never got around to it, and now I will. And I love that Donkey Kong Country Returns is finally going to be joining Tropical Freeze on the Switch. Very happy about that. Alex, are you happy about that?
I guess, but I've actually never played Returns.
You have not, but you're a Donkey Kong Country fan. How dare you?
I know.
I know, right?
I like the original trilogy, but I never went further.
Nope. You went to Donkey Kong 64, but
not me personally. Andrea
only
did.
Andrea did? I did not know that.
Okay. Yeah.
So there you go. Brinton, any thoughts on Donkey Kong Country Returns?
I've never played, nor do I really care to play Donkey Kong games. They're not really my style.
It's okay. It's not on a drum. That's all that matters. It's not on the drum.
I would rather play the game on the drum. That is fun for me.
So the next game that we got was Mario Party Jamboree. This was kind of the meh announcement that happened in the Nintendo Direct. It's like, oh, look, a Mario Party game that's going to expand even more mini games, and it's going to have even more online functionality. Would have never guessed that this is happening. And oh, by the way, it's coming out October 17th. So, hey, Mario Party fans, rejoice.
Good. Yeah,
I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Because I know the original Switch Mario Party was kind of lackluster.
I'm okay with it.
Yes.
From what I can tell, they're learning from their previous entries, and they're looking to have that online functionality mean a little bit more than it has in previous entries. So as long as they keep learning, I think I'm okay with it. So
we play so much Mario Party over here at my place. So when I told Jason, hey, there's going to be a new Mario Party, and I shared it with our daughter, that we were all super stoked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think it looks good. I just, it's Mario Party, and I won't be able to have any feeling on the online functionality until I actually get into the game. That's kind of the issue. Then we got our Nintendo Switch Online announcements, which were very interesting. So we got 4 games announced, 2 for GBA and 2 for N64. For N64, we had Perfect Dark. Gee, I find that appropriate considering Commander Risting Bitchface. Then we also had Turok Dinosaur Hunter. Oh my gosh. All original Nintendo 64 nerds rejoice. Turok has returned. I am Turok! But the GBA announcements, that's where it was really good. So we got The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past with 4 swords and online functionality for the 4 swords game. So that ought to keep people very happy. And Metroid fans rejoice! Metroid Zero Mission, which should have literally been out like a year ago, is finally on Nintendo Switch Online. Gee, I wonder what I was doing that weekend. For another time. Totally wasn't playing Metroid Zero Mission. Not at all. Then we also got a interesting announcement. This is a game that was announced way back in January, and no details were given until this Nintendo Direct. Tales of the Shire, a Lord of the Rings game, was officially unveiled. This is basically Stardew Valley Lord of the Rings edition. And you know what? It looked pretty damn good. Enough so, and I actually loved a lot of the music that they did that was original, is going to be original composers based off of the films in the Shire moments. So you got to have all of that. I'm very happy about that, because once they announced that they were going to do a farm-based game based in the Shire, I'm like, that'll actually bring in a lot of people. And the funniest thing is that everybody that I knew that was playing Animal Crossing minus Brinton has basically said they're going to be jumping to Tales of the Shire after that reveal. So, yay!
Yeah.
I love it. So then we had Hello Kitty Island Adventure. Nobody cared about that.
I care about it.
Okay, well, you care. What I'm basically trying to do is recreate the South Park joke of Butters, who was the only one that played Hello Kitty Island Adventure when he should have been playing World of Warcraft like everybody else. So, I swear, the only reason Hello Kitty Island Adventure exists is because of the South Park episode. It really is.
Oh my gosh.
Then, Disney's Illusion Islands Mystery got announced. This is going to be a 4-player co-op game that is, I believe, this is just going to be an update for it, but it is part of the Illusion Island game that, for Disney fans of like old school SNES Disney games, they have gotten a kick out of this. And so the fact that they're going to be adding in a Mystery in Monoth update, I could be I couldn't be happier for them. I really couldn't. So good on you guys. Oh, also, they had to mention that the official release date for Luigi's Mansion 2 HD for Switch is June 27th. So I guess my question is, does anybody have it?
No.
It came out the day before Dawn Trail's early access, and I think that answers your question.
Here was a weird announcement that happened there. Funko Fusion. So Funko Pops have officially gotten a video game. And I can't even, I can't believe I'm saying this. It actually looks kind of fun. Like, for me to play with my kids. Fun. I mean, I looked at it and I immediately thought, this looks like it's about as fun as like the Lego games. And I hate Funko Pops. I wish I would never have to see any of them ever again. And I even looked at this and went, yeah, that's kind of cute. I'd play that with my kids. You know, if they ever wanted to play anything like that. I'm not bitter or anything. Not at all. So there you go. Funko Fusion. Brinton, any thoughts on Funko Fusion?
I had no interest, but I'm glad that there are people who do have the interest.
All right. Then we also got a indie Metroidvania being showcased called Mio Memories in Orbit. That one actually looked really inventive and very interesting. It's a Metroidvania that utilizes light in a very unique way, so we got that. That was pretty cool. More Among Us updates. And then here comes another big announcement for Ace Attorney fans, because the Ace Attorney Investigations Collection is coming this September. Now, this is exciting for one particular reason. For Ace Attorney fans, the Investigations games have always lacked in the amount of the ones that we actually have. Why? Because one of them never got translated. Well, it got fan translated, but that's about it. Capcom has officially remedied that and have now included both Ace Attorney Investigations 1, Miles Edgeworth, as well as Ace Attorney Investigations 2, Prosecutor's Gambit, and with a Capcom translation. So, yay! yay! And a lot of people are immediately going, are we going to get another Ace Attorney Investigations game? We don't know. I don't know either, but I'm excited for you. I'm excited as well. I love Ace Attorney, so that will be awesome. Then we got an interesting announcement from the creator of Danganronpa, the 100-line Last Defense Academy. This is basically going to be Danganronpa meets a Musou game or a Dynasty Warriors game. So you will have the visual novel aspects of a Danganronpa, but you will also have combat elements like a Dynasty Warriors game. And basically the whole premise is you have to survive from invaders of the school for 100 days. So already Danganronpa fans are super excited with this one. I do know that our buddy Rising Sun is a fan. Any others here?
This does look pretty good. I might give this one a look for sure.
It actually does look pretty damn good.
I mean, I would love to see some gameplay first before committing to it. I'm also just being cognizant of what I can and cannot spend money on going into the holidays.
That's kind of the issue. So now we can get into what I personally consider to be the dud of this Nintendo Direct, and that's saying something considering a lot of the announcements that have happened. And that was the Nintendo World Championships NES Edition getting a new look, and I believe it also got a release date on July 18th, for this. So, were you guys aware of this game?
Actually, no.
So, Nintendo World Championships is actually like the earliest concept of gaming tournaments or speedrunning. And so at that point, I believe the reason that they did this was because they wanted to relive, because the original Nintendo World Championships cartridge is still a collector's item. There weren't many made, and so they wanted to kind of relive that hype, but they also wanted to give you gameplay, and so they included a number of speedrunning challenges with 13 NES games as opposed to the original NES cart, which had 3. So it is interesting for like speedrunners out there. I'm not knocking you guys, but to me this was a weird one because they emphasized the physical edition, and I'm pretty sure all of the speedrunners that are going to play this are only ever going to get the digital version. There really wasn't a need for a physical version of this. I mean, maybe for people like Pat the NES Punk, but even then, I think he'll avoid
physical. Something like this, I imagine, is out there for the collectors more than your typical casual audience.
Why I'm thinking the physical edition exists, because other than that, I mean, a lot of the features that are going to be coming in this, you can get on Nintendo Switch Online. You really can. So it's not that intriguing to me. I have no problem saying. However, now we can get into the good announcements, the really good announcements. This one I held because this one is near and dear to my heart. Fantasian Neo Dimension is officially going to be coming to consoles holiday 2024. For those who don't know, Fantasian is the last game directed and created by Final Fantasy creator Hironobu Sakaguchi. And unfortunately, Fantasian was released on mobile, because that's what Mistwalker could pull off at that time. But his old buddies at Square Enix have funded a console port with English and Japanese voiceovers, adjustable difficulty settings, a myriad of other features, and it's going to be coming out this holiday season. So for those who are diehard Sakaguchi fans, especially of what he did in the original Final Fantasy games, or what he did with Mistwalker titles, you get access to his last game, even though we keep on begging him to come back, and he won't do it. Damn it! If only people could learn from him. He was amazing, Alex. He was amazing. No, thoughts on Fantasian? When did either of you see this?
No, this is another one that passed out.
Is it more interesting to you now that you know that it's Sakaguchi's last game?
A little bit, yeah.
I'll take a closer look at
I
it.
have wanted to play it, but one of the things that made me very wary of it, and more importantly, I was worried about its sales, was because it was mobile. And so at that point, everybody would look at it and go, oh, mobile, that means microtransactions, that means predatory practices, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da, when I knew that wasn't what Fantasian was. And unfortunately, I hate to say it this way, because I agree with everybody that there is a lot of predatory practices in the mobile market, but there are a lot of developers out there that are not doing that. And all they're trying to do is make legitimate games, and Fantasian was one of them. So I'm very happy that this is going to get a console release, not just for Sakaguchi's legacy, but also to show that, oh, wait, this game was mobile. Maybe not all of them are so bad. Or maybe not all of them are riddled with microtransactions. Maybe there are some we can trust. But of course, that's not what everybody wants to hear about. No, everybody wants to hear about Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. This was the last trailer that they showcased. Metroid fans, or more importantly, Metroid Prime fans, rejoice! You have finally seen Retro's return to Samus Aran. And even I've got to admit, I'm not a fan of the Prime gameplay. This looked pretty fucking cool. Now, for all the people that have been screaming at me, where is this in the time? I don't know, damn it. I got so many people texting me going, where's Prime 4 in the timeline? You know the timeline. Where is it? I don't know where it is. My guess is that it's probably going to be set after Prime 3. That they're basically going to keep the Prime series as when Samus got a lot of her notoriety as a bounty hunter. And that's probably what they're going to do. All I can tell you is, it looked pretty fucking good. Now, this is the point where I actually want to bring up something else that happened. About a week before this Nintendo Direct, supposedly, a list leaked of the games that were going to be announced at this Direct. Spoiler alert, it wasn't very accurate. But one of the things that people were speculating on that did get asked by Nintendo after this was whether or not, because only one Prime game has received a remake, can we expect Prime 2 and Prime 3 to be remade by the time Prime 4 comes out? And Nintendo was actually very optimistic about that. And very much gave the impression that maybe we'd hear about those sooner than you thought. So I'm hoping that maybe this is one of the things about that leak that might have been accurate, that we might be seeing Prime 2 and Prime 3 remake being announced digitally. That would be freaking awesome. But there you go. That's Prime 4. You guys' thoughts on Prime 4?
I've never played any of the other Primes, so no strong opinions.
We'll get to that.
Trailer looks cool,
we'll get there. But the biggest thing is I remember that we've all had our viewpoints on, just how tumultuous Prime 4's development has been. So the fact that we finally got to see a trailer for Retro's design, that's a good thing. And now people aren't necessarily so worried about it. They know that Prime 4 is coming. It hasn't been canceled or anything like that. And originally it is Retro working on it. Not necessarily everybody from the original Retro team for Prime, but it is Retro. So look forward to that. Well, all of the people who didn't like that they made Donkey Kong Country can complain that there's still a Donkey Kong Country game being remade while Prime 4 is being worked on. Even though not the same companies. But now we can get into the real meat of this, because this little announcement was bigger than anything else on the Nintendo Direct. This announcement broke streamers when it happened. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for me to take Brinton and Alex for a ride. Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics got announced at the Nintendo Direct and broke E3 season. Broke it. And Alex is probably sitting here going, why did it break it? Because this was not supposed to happen, Alex. There were way too many rights holders involved, and Capcom did it. This is a collection.
Crazy.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, those crazy sons of bitches, they did it.
I know! It's almost like they channeled the inner spirit of Stan Lee. And then when Excelsior, we should just do it! This will include 7 games, starting from the very beginning of the Versus series, because a lot of people don't realize that it didn't start as a Versus. It started with X-Men, Children of the Atom. So you have that fighting game. Then you have Marvel Superheroes. Then you have X-Men versus Street Fighter. Then you have Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter. And then you get Marvel vs. Capcom, Clash of Superheroes, and Marvel vs. Capcom 2, New Age of Heroes. Oh, and also the Punisher beat 'em up is in there too. You know, the other thing that was never going to happen, because Capcom couldn't get the rights to be able to release this thing in another collection. The Punisher arcade beat 'em up is officially out there. You can have access to it.
All right.
I mean, the only other way you had access was through the what is it? Arcade 1-Up cabinet that they put out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I have no problem telling you this, guys. This broke streamers. I saw streamers in tears. I saw Maximilian Dude, who has been pushing a literal campaign for 3 to 4 years, lose his proverbial shit when this got announced. Which is funny, because before this even happened, Zelda Echoes of Wisdom had happened, and that already broke people. And then Marvel vs. Capcom broke people. And then Metroid Prime 4 broke people. Nintendo broke the internet. Again. And I already broke my podcast panelists because they had to endure all of the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 memes that I put out for a solid week and a half after this announcement. I regret nothing. In fact, while we're talking, Editor Drac, put up another one!
No! No! No!
So there you go. That was the Nintendo Direct. Thoughts?
Good stuff.
They did an incredible job.
They won. They won, and not only did they win, they kicked the crap out of Xbox and Sony and took their lunch money. Because not only did they make amazing announcements, but look at all of the games on their Nintendo Direct coming out June, July, October, September, November. This is a packed Nintendo 2024 for the rest of the year. I mean, like, Brinton, you and I were making the joke. Nintendo broke our wallets.
I mean, they really...
I think I made a joke.
I don't know if I'm going to afford Christmas, man.
To be able to get everything.
Right?
And,
like,
yeah.
My daughter is just going to be... she's not getting Christmas this year.
Well, Christmas is coming. It's just not coming on the 25th. It's coming way earlier than that.
Well, it's also not coming for her, so...
Yeah, there you go.
I'm just kidding.
You horrible father. No, I'm kidding. My kids are probably going to be in the same boat. I mean, there were even games that I didn't even talk about that are going to be coming out at the latest this holiday season. And so at that point, you all can look forward to those. But I'm literally looking through the announcements here. September, August, October, November. There was even a little game called Phantom Brave: The Lost Hero that looked really, really good to me. That and Donkey Kong Country Returns are pretty much the only 2025 releases in there. Everything else is pretty much coming out this year. It's ridiculous. There's even a Romancing Saga 2 full remake that's coming out this year. Fairy Tail 2 is, I believe, this winter. It's going to be coming out this winter. So look forward to that. In fact, I actually found it funny that this Fairy Tail 2 game got announced, and literally the next day was when we got a Bleach action RPG coming for PlayStation, or PlayStation got to announce it. What was that one called? Rebirth of Souls, I think is what it was. Brenton?
I believe
Yeah.
so.
So, yeah, anime fans, also rejoice. You're going to get a bunch of shit this year. So, there you go. That was the E3 season this year, but we do have some discussions tonight, and I think that they are relevant because these are actually based on questions that some of our listeners were asking in regards to how the E3 season went. And the first one that we need to get into is regards to Nintendo, because Nintendo broke the internet. They really did. They have a ton of things coming out. Did they do too much? Is there such a thing as too much? Because here's the thing. We know that come next year, they've already told us that the Switch 2 announcements are going to be happening in 2025. We don't know when, but they're going to happen in 2025. So the question is ultimately, did Nintendo just wreck the Switch 2? Because by the time we get to that announcement, people are going to be burnt out by all of the games that Nintendo has coming out in 2024. Brinton, why don't you go first?
I don't think they wrecked the Switch 2 announcement. I think the fact that we have minimal release dates for anything into 2025 is intentional.
Right.
I'm sure that they have a great lineup and a excellent launch that they're preparing for. And the fact that there are so many games, excellent games, by the way, that are coming out through the end of this year and going into 2025 just tells me that Switch 2 could very well be backwards compatible.
I suspect that.
So I don't think they've done anything to potentially hurt themselves for their new console launch. I just think I think they've shared what they've wanted to share. They've prepared what they've wanted to prepare for now, and the next step from here is time to get ready to launch a new console.
Right. And I tend to agree. I get the argument that we'll be too exhausted by the time the Switch 2 rolls around, or our wallets will be too spent. But in reality, I don't think that's really going to affect Nintendo as much as people think it will, because they'll find a way. They ultimately will. And more importantly, I think Brinton brings up a good point, that the reason that they might be doing this is because they're basically saying, hey, if you can't get a Switch 2 right away, that's fine, because you're not going to have to worry about all of these other games and whether or not they're going to work on the Switch 2, because they probably are going to work on it. Which I think would actually be an amazing thing to announce, and it wouldn't surprise me that this is why the Switch 2 has taken so long, is they've probably been trying to perfect the tech in order to incorporate Nintendo Switch Online better. So at that point, they don't have to go to a whole new service once the Switch 2 happens. So I think this is going to work in their favor, ultimately. Alex, what about you?
I can say where Brenton's coming from for sure. He makes a really good point. I suppose the alternative is just to look at it like this. It's like we've seen this with Sony, we've seen it with Xbox, with PlayStation and Xbox this past generation. How even though these were the brand new consoles, the hot new consoles, there still was a lot of last generation support still continuing. Yep. Even into today, there's still a lot of that last generation. So I think it's also could be that way, that Nintendo's just kind of reading not way things are. Inflation's up all across the world. Not everybody's going to be racing out to buy a brand new $200, $300 console right away. So to keep the support for the console that people still have keeps people loyal to our brand, keeps people buying our product, and hopefully will make some people interested in the new Switch soon enough.
Let me ask the opposite question because I think it's valid. So we have all of these big announcements that, all of these big games that are going to be coming out this year. Is this basically speculating that maybe what'll happen is early in the next year, we'll get the Switch 2 announcement, but then it will be 6 to 8 month drought of Nintendo stuff because they're basically gearing up for the Switch 2 announcement? Or not for the new announcement, but the release, the launch of the Switch 2.
Yeah, I think that's a strong possibility too, that this could be kind of like a big sort of dump to keep us, happy, to keep us tied over until we hear more about Switch 2.
Right. Do we think that would be a bad thing if they had this big drought, 6 to 8 month drought between announcement and and the launch, if we already have all of these other games that, came out in 2024 and a few of them are coming out in 25? Like, do we think that'll hurt
In this case, no, I don't think so, because it was a big splash of a lot of games, a really big variety of games across the board, including updates for the online store. And, so I think it's kind of the perfect thing to keep people tied over for a long time, especially if we are going to have a sort of long period without any new announcements of either the next generation console or a brand new, just mainline game from Nintendo, which sounds like we probably won't be getting anything mainline until Switch 2 anyway.
It wouldn't surprise me if a lot of their bigger guns are moved over to Switch 2. And so at that point, there were big titles that weren't seen there. I mean, a lot of people I saw were very disappointed that a Pokemon game technically wasn't there, whether it be a Gen or whether it be a Arceus sequel. Those weren't there. I also know that if you're a Mario Kart fan, you were somewhat disappointed because you wanted to see Mario Kart 9. But my guess is those big titles, they've since moved over to Switch 2. What about you, Brenton? Do you think that there could be a potentially huge gap where Nintendo is not putting anything out in 2025 because of the launch, and is that necessarily a bad thing?
With how much there is to play and the replayability of so many different types of games, I don't see a super huge issue with it. Sometimes I wish developers wouldn't put out so many new games so close together and so consistently.
Right.
I actually wouldn't mind like a little bit of respite for my wallet. Because I think very heavily about Echoes of Wisdom in September and British Ship in November, and being completely aware that will be at least $120 right there, if not more. And it's all during the holidays.
Well, and another thing that I think a lot of people aren't necessarily considering here is, okay, let's just say that drought happens. Okay, it's a Nintendo drought. You do realize there are other game developers, right? And those third parties can fill that gap and be able to get people to that 2025 launch date just fine. And in fact, one of the things that actually irritated me with this E3 season, and I remember complaining to both of you on this, Sega was nowhere in any of these announcements. And if people remember, way back at the Game Awards, we found out that there's 6 games in development, all based on older properties, that Sega was able to showcase some gameplay for some of them, not for others. And in fact, I believe we only got like 4 of them unveiled. There's still 2 that we don't know what they are. And so at that point, we didn't see them at all. And frankly, some of those games could fill that gap. Like, I'd like to see what they are, and I'd love to be able to have that Shinobi game that's supposed to be a Metroidvania coming out before then, and we know that's coming for Switch. So there you go. That solves the problem. So at that point, yeah, I don't think this is going to be as negative for Nintendo as a lot of people are thinking it's going to be. But then again, the people who think that it's going to be negative for them are also the same people that are saying that Nintendo is the baby console. So, good luck with that. Because the baby console, a lot of the time, kicks the asses of the adult consoles. Oops.
Yes,
Did I
sir.
say that out loud?
Yeah.
That leads into our second discussion, which actually happened quite a bit in this E3 season. I don't know why, but this was a big discussion topic on social media platforms when a lot of these unveiling events were happening, because there was a huge integration of not just the big second, third-party titles as well as the first-party titles, but you also saw a lot of indie integration where you got to see what the indie game developers are creating for this year, for next year, that you can look forward to. And normally, everybody's just okay with this, but I saw a lot of people, especially in regards to Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, who kind of had the same argument that you have, Alex, but on steroids. Enough to the point where it's silly. And that's why I phrased this the way that I did. Do bits matter in video games anymore? Because people were criticizing Echoes of Wisdom simply because it is based on what they considered to be inferior technology.
Right. Okay.
As if Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is being made for a previous generation's console like the Super Nintendo. Now, in the 90s, I can get why bits mattered in video games. Because when you moved up from 8-bit to 16-bit, there was a significant difference in what you could do. But now, we live in a video game market where everything is possible. And so many of these twats on Twitter, Twitterman X, sorry, were complaining, oh, that looks just so old. Why are they going 8-bit? Oh my gosh, a 32-bit game? Good lord, man, get with the times. Making arguments that basically every game had to look like fucking Fortnite. Are you fucking kidding me? I love that so many people can make games the way they want to. And that's the important part. If you envision your game as an 8-bit game, Alex, you can do that. And nobody cares. Except for the twats on social media. Am I smoking crack here? Am I the only one that thought this was stupid? This was a stupid argument to have now?
I didn't realize that there was an argument around it.
There was this year. I don't know why. Like I saw the unveiling of Volgar the Viking 2, which is a sequel to a game that came out for Xbox indie gaming or Xbox Arcade years and years ago. Based off of, it's actually a spiritual successor to Rygar, an old NES game. And Volgar 2 finally happens because, again, the Volgar team is like 1 or 2 people. So it takes them a while to get things out, but people were criticizing that it was still going to be in a similar pixel sprite related art style. Why does that matter? Because here's the way I look at it. If Alex, I think we've spilled the beans on this, is that you actually do have an idea for like a visual novel game.
Yes.
If you wanted to, you could take your characters and make them look like Minecraft characters, which, you know, is supposed to look super retro. Is there a problem with that?
No, I don't think there's a problem
What
with
if you
that.
wanted to make it look like an 8 or 16-bit sprite?
I think that'd be very interesting, actually. I've never really seen a visual novel with sprite art before.
Well, according to the argument,
I
on social
completely
media,
agree.
the game's immediately bad because you wanted to go towards sprite design. I love sprites. Like, even now. I love sprites, especially now that, like, you have games like Sea of Stars that are basically modernizing sprites and making them capable of so many things they weren't capable of when I was a kid. It's just a way to build your world. It's just a way to shape the story that you want to tell. What's the problem? Well, apparently because You can't do the 80s weirdo dances that you can do in Fortnite. Well, fuck that.
I mean, I'd say this is clearly a minority. Just
It's probably a very
This-
vocal minority, but I saw this argument happening and I'm just like, what the fuck is wrong with kids? Like, and it could just be nothing but kids having a stupid ass argument. This is the dumbest.
kids are trolls, maybe.
Kids are assholes, is what they are. I speak as a former kid. Kids are assholes.
Yeah,
And so at that
but-
point, this is the dumbest thing to have an argument about, because you live in an era where you can have basically everything on a silver platter. You can design your game however you want. What's the problem?
Mhm.
Like, I love the fact that everybody, or that a lot of people are screaming like, well, the video game industry is dead. They don't have any idea. Well, that's why the indie game development market actually is keeping things afloat, because they are actually coming up with interesting ideas in older engines, and it looks gorgeous. And for all the people that want to say, well, like, they're too backwards thinking, we wouldn't have a Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake if those games didn't exist. Think about that. Because if they weren't doing it first, and indie games were doing it first, there wouldn't have been an Octopath Traveler. And Octopath Traveler is ultimately the style and the engine that new HD 2D remake is coming. Brinton, I think we've cut you off a couple of times. Am I smoking crack?
No. I think the only, like, I agree with everything that you guys are saying, because oh, well, excuse me. There's even Pokemon fans, going back to Pokemon, who complain insistently about how much they wish Pokemon would just go back to sprite work, because because there's a fair amount of people who are like, I don't really like 3D Pokemon as much as I thought I would. And like complain and whine about how some Pokemon got downgraded or don't look as good from when they were sprites. And I may not necessarily fully agree with what they're saying. However, I just find it funny that there are, I think maybe this is just a generational thing. Like kind of what you're saying, Adam, because the general consensus that I'm getting from what I'm hearing is those in our age group are just like, oh, like, an Octopath Traveler that looks like it was made in the 90s. Cool. That's super cool. That's retro. That's nostalgic. I love it. And just children essentially are like, no. It's like, okay, you don't have to play it. Like,
well, that's the other thing too that just irritates me, is that if things are not happening the way you want, then the video game industry is dead, or like nobody should be buying video games anymore. That is such a cop out, because like, I am a full-on adopter. I pretty much, like, despite the games that I've said that I'm interested in tonight from Xbox and from Nintendo, I've pretty much abandoned AAA. I'm always checking at least once a week what is coming from the indie developers, because there are a lot of times where I just feel the passion from watching the trailer that these developers have, whereas opposed to, I don't know, a AAA game that got announced from the Sony conference, I don't feel that anymore. I don't feel the passion there anymore, but I do when it comes to the indie developer, and that's who I want to support.
No, I hear you, Adam. I'm very much in the same boat as you, I feel. So I don't think I could, like, I don't disagree with that whatsoever.
And honestly, I think we could easily do this discussion as like a bigger roundtable, because I have no problem saying I would love to bring Rising Sun into this discussion, because he's been playing a lot of retro games recently. A lot of the stuff that people have seen him play have been, visual novels, the Nier games, so action RPGs, but then he's also been taking on games like Fire Emblem, both old and new. So at that point, it would be cool to be able to get his viewpoint, because, games now can have different kinds of looks. And to me, that opens the floodgates for what a game can look like in this day and age. And that's the most exciting thing to me, is that you could literally have thousands of games I will never get through in my lifetime, but I'm so glad that they exist. And I find it funny you bring up the Pokemon argument, because some of the most popular Pokemon games right now are fan hacks, basically, of like Gen 5, I want to say. It was Gen 5 that did the movement for the sprites, right?
Yeah, that made me very nauseous. One of the reasons why I couldn't play Gen 5.
See, what that's actually like to me, I like the 3D models. I like the older models as well. But I will say Gen 5, when they actually incorporated movement, was probably the most innovative to me, because nothing against the 3D engine, but I'll probably get slapped for saying this. Looking at Gen 6 and beyond, it's pretty much just Pokemon Stadium. I mean, there are distinct differences, but for the most part, it's the Stadium engine rehashed and put into kind of a modern 3D framework, which is fine. Like, that's the way that it works, and I don't ultimately mind it, but I also don't mind the sprite work either. You know, I grew up on sprites, so sprites are nostalgic to me as well as innovative to me, because to me that's when the envelope was being pushed in video games as a storytelling medium. I mean, I just barely saw an RPG. I can't remember its name off the top of my head, but it was based in the Xenogears engine. Nobody's used that engine in forever. In fact, even people at Monolith have said we didn't like that engine and we made it work as best as we could. But this guy loved that engine so much he wanted to build his own world in it. Good on him. That's what he wants to do. He can do it. I literally don't care. Because if that's where his creativity takes him, who am I to argue? I mean, maybe I'll have someone to argue about if I'm the guy who paid $20 and he put out a piece of shit, but my guess he's probably not putting out a piece of shit. So, yeah, I'd love to be able to have this discussion a little bit more, especially with a fourth panelist, but that's pretty much all we have. So, I mean, like I said, the only complaint I really have with this E3 season is the fact that we didn't see anything from Sega. I know, Alex, you and I discussed this, and you were kind of disappointed in that, but overall, how do you guys feel about this E3 season?
Nintendo...
I'm okay with it.
Yeah. I'm fine, because Nintendo kind of put it in the bag, and they nailed it.
Damn right they did. And they got all the good announcements. Have no problem saying that. Now, please get me that Marvel vs. Capcom collection in my hands right now! I'm not passionate about this at all. I've already said I'm dropping Street Fighter 6 the second I get that in my hands, because I will play nothing but versus games. I love those games so freaking much. But that'll go ahead and do it for us. So let's go ahead and start wrapping things up. We have officially put half of this year in the books, boys, Brenton and Alex. We should feel proud of ourselves. But we still have a couple of other months to take care of. But we don't have to worry about that right now, Alex, because we have a vacation in a couple of weeks.
Yay! I'm so excited.
So, Alex,
enjoy.
Alex the Shadow Blazer, how do people reach out to you on your opinions on Zelda Echoes of Wisdom?
Shadow Blazer 3000, that's my channel. I've got anime stuff on it. Come watch it.
Except he doesn't have any of the anime games that were announced. How dare you, Alex? This is why he's the anime hipster of the podcast.
I guess so.
And Brenton Volley, how do people reach out to you about your opinions on why on earth are you not excited about Metroid Prime 4? How dare you?
Don't contact me. Just don't.
Cool. Actually, no. You'll be too busy playing the games you are interested in to actually answer.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm looking... Oh, wait. That's not what I wanted to say. You all know how to get a hold of me. Just talk to Adam. He'll talk to me, and I'll answer your questions.
Right. As for myself, you guys are on my channel, so you check out all of the other content that we provide including the podcast that we're doing about the Yu-Gi-Oh! Battle City Finals, as well as me and Andrea are getting ready to wrap up Beyblade Season 1, and we will have that wrapped up by the time we go on vacation, so I'm very happy about that. And you can also check out some future projects like myself reviewing Mobile Suit Gundam, the 8th MS team, or I'm actually happy to announce this, that one of the movies that we're going to be taking on vacation is Mobile Suit Gundam Seed Freedom. So you guys can look forward to that podcast very soon. Alex, you're excited, right?
Yeah, very.
I don't know how I will do. Well, we'll probably get it subtitled, so maybe I won't have to worry about the weird British accents, but more than likely it'll be subtitled, so we probably won't have to worry about that. So you guys can check out all of that stuff. Also, if you are listening on the podcast platforms, you can support us on Amazon Podcast, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Player.fm, and Spotify. We appreciate all of the help on those platforms as well. Or you can leave a like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. That helps out also. And we will be back next time when we put July in the books. Until then, my friends, take care. And more importantly, in the comments section, let us know what you were excited for. I'd love to be able to see what you guys got excited about, either at Nintendo or Sony or Xbox. Let's have that discussion. But until then, special thanks over to Alex and to Brinton for joining me on this. We've put another E3 season in the books, and we will see you guys next time for the next GNRO podcast. Until then, take care, my friends. And just remember, things are good. Because it's Marvel, baby!